I have tried in my last couple of videos to keep Plush Pillow out of the shot, but what ends up happening is we see the butt of Plush Pillow. So Plush Pillow is just gonna be in the frame from now on. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As always, very appreciated to have you here. And for this episode of Missing Monday, we are going to be talking about two very special LGBTQ plus cases. So without further ado, let's begin with our first case today. Ellie Alicia Ticehurst was born in 1975, and she was a transgender woman who identified as female. Originally born with the name of Alan, she sometimes went by the name of Alicia or Alicia. Ellie would reportedly go for long stretches of time without seeing or contacting friends and family. However, she did make an effort to show up at important family gatherings like baptisms, birthdays, reunions, things like that. It was obvious that despite Ellie's clear indicators towards her gender, regardless, in all of the police reports, she is referred to as a he, him, and she is referred to with her birth name of Alan. So the transgender community in Australia definitely wasn't as wildly accepted back then as it is today. And unfortunately, even in this day and age, we still struggle as a society to accept transgender people. The first case of gender reassignment surgery in Australia was conducted in 1956 on a man called Robert James Brooks. And in 1979, the first transgender rights advocacy organisations were established. And these were agencies such as the Victorian Transsexual Coalition and the Victorian Transsexual Association. However, it wasn't until 1987 when the first transgendered Australian legally recognised post-operative, and it was at this pivotal moment in transgender history within Australia, it meant that legal certificates such as birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage certificates could be changed/altered in the event that somebody wanted to change their gender on all of their legal documents. And thankfully, shortly after this, the government also allowed the gender on all Australian passports to be changed as well. On Friday, the 1st of August 1997, Ellie was last sighted in Laidley, Queensland. Although it was rumoured that she had plans to travel to Darwin in the Northern Territory, unfortunately, ever since that day, nobody has heard or seen of Ellie, and as a result, her case has gone completely unsolved. Unfortunately, despite Australia's best efforts to move towards a more inclusive society, towards its LGBTQ plus citizens, the transgender community still faces violence at a disproportionate rate. Even though there are only 3 documented trans deaths in the whole of Australia, the news media hasn't even begun to effectively document the violence that is inflicted upon trans people. And oftentimes, when compared to other countries, it makes us look not bad in comparison. However, the fact of the matter is, our justice system, even still to this day, doesn't consider gender in its investigations, meaning that they only go by the person's assigned gender at birth. Thus, it leaves trans cases not statistically credible as an act of trans violence. And a shining example of this, unfortunately, is Ellie's case. And in every single report that I read of her, and they were very far and few, unfortunately, she was referred to as Alan and as a he, him. And unfortunately, in terms of Ellie's disappearance, that is literally all the information I have. So I'm really sorry that I'm unable to paint a really good picture of who Ellie was in life and give more clarity on as to what happened in terms of her disappearance, but there's literally nothing else, so I'm really sorry about that. But at the time of her disappearance, Ellie was roughly 180 centimeters tall, had hazel eyes, brown hair, a slim build, and a fair complexion. Unfortunately, that is all the information that I have on Ellie's case at this time, which brings us on to case number 2. Amanda Jet Rollins, also nicknamed Mandy, was a well-known Sydney underground DJ who was a huge part of the LGBTQ plus underground clubbing scene, who was dubbed the Tribal Queen for her unique sound and refreshing approach to her music. She was most admired on the DJ scene for her electrifying sets that incorporated such sounds that combined subcultures and sexualities that people absolutely loved to dance to. Her sound was described as like raw and techno-fused, percussive tribal house. That at that time hadn't have really been done before, so it was a really unique sound for club goers to be listening to. And as a result of her really unique sound, it really did make Mandy stand out from the rest. She was described by friends as being the sweetest woman that you would ever meet. The Hellfire crew specifically really adored her and treated her like family. Amanda was born on the 9th of January 1968 in Hobart, Tasmania, and she was born to parents Derek and Anita. She also had an older sister called Karen, and growing up she was very close with her father, who completely accepted her sexuality. Growing up, she had such influences such as Kiss and Stevie Nicks. So when Mandy got a bit older, she was introduced to the clubbing scene when she started working at a specific club in Hobart called the Cadillac Club. There she met other DJs, and it was said that she was often found on the dance floor. And her older sister Karen went on to say that for a majority of their early 20s, they would party until the clubs closed and then go and get breakfast somewhere at a local cafe and watch the sunrise. And that really is like the best feeling in the world, I swear. I've been there a few times myself. And she discovered her love of DJing when a good friend of hers was doing a set at a casino nightclub, and he sneakily let her sneak past security and onto stage and let her take control of the booth for a few songs. Needless to say, she completely fell in love with the energy and the adrenaline rush that she had, and the rest is ancient history because she found her calling. It was around this time too that I think she chose to kind of step away from her family a little bit, and I don't think it was because anything bad happened. I just think it was because, you know, she was a young woman, she was growing up, she was becoming herself, and, you know, it's a very tender time in your life in your early 20s, and especially since she would have been coming to terms with her sexuality. And not only this, but Tasmania is a really small place. So I think she kind of just made the decision to just step away a little bit, to kind of discover herself a little bit without everyone around her knowing. And as a result, she decided to move to Melbourne on the mainland. Unfortunately though, in 1993, Mandy's father passed away, and this had an absolutely huge effect on Mandy because she was so close with him. Also to that, she was only 25 at the time too, so that's a really young age to be losing a parent. I'm not sure if this loss started her mental health issues or if they only amplified it, I'm not sure, but nevertheless Mandy found it really difficult to cope with this loss. But when she moved to Melbourne, it issued an age of new beginnings, and she was able to meet with a promoters at a specific club called Hellfire. They met up with her at a friend's house in Darlinghurst, and it was this house where she was just kind of practicing getting the hang of DJing. So when these promoters came, apparently she didn't sound so good in her early days, but you know, it's just because she was getting the hang of it. But the fact of the matter was that they were so drawn to all of the unique sounds that they were hearing. And when she got really good at it and she got more confident, she impressed everybody within no time, and as a result, she started booking gigs everywhere with Hellfire, and she was performing for a lot of venues, and she even ended up working for Hellfire for 10 years. But that's much later. Backtracking a little bit, in 1996, Mandy got her big break when she played for a nightclub called Sleazeball. I'm loving the names here. I'm loving this. And that was being played at the Hordern Pavilion here in Sydney. And after this, it just kind of catapulted her career. She got regular gigs everywhere. She performed for the Mardi Gras, and then she even played around some places in Asia. So in 2000, Mandy decided to move to the Phoenix Bar, and here she was able to get the Saturday night slot, and eventually she was joined by many other well-known DJs as well, especially another Sydney DJ called DJ Feisty. And then later on in 2006, Mandy and DJ Feisty created a monthly nightclub, and that was called Dirty. And it was such a success among the clubbing goers in the LGBTQ+ scene that they decided to upgrade and go even larger. And these much larger parties were held in much larger clubs, and they were called Extra Dirty. And they were held 3 times a year, and they were a huge success. And even internationally recognized DJs started performing there as well. And this was one of Mandy's most prized accomplishments. She was so proud of this. This was her baby. And it was even during this time that Mandy and DJ Feisty even had a serious long-term relationship, which went on to last for 7 years. And even though they did eventually part ways, they still remained good friends and they kept in contact. Unfortunately, however, during this time, Mandy did suffer with depression. And I just can't imagine that it would have been an easy road for her, especially at this time period where the LGBTQ+ community, it just unfortunately wasn't accepted by the vast majority of the public like it is today. And in addition to this too, mental health as well was barely even talked about nor properly assessed. But eventually, around the time where 2010 rolled around, Mandy was still living in Sydney in an apartment in Enmore. On the 4th of September, Mandy decided to meet up with a friend, and they both went to the Courthouse Hotel in Newtown. There I'm sure they spent the afternoon and a little bit of the evening just chatting, having a good feed, having a few drinks. And then at around 7 o'clock, the friend dropped Mandy back to her apartment. And then it was reported that roughly later on at around 7:30, Mandy sent a text message to that friend that she had seen that night saying that she was going to go to Watson's Bay. Watson's Bay is still located in Sydney, and it's just roughly 20 minutes from where Mandy's apartment was located. And unfortunately, that text message exchange was the last time anybody has heard or seen of Mandy. Unfortunately, the following day, I'm not sure who located these items, but a few of her personal items like her cap, her wallet, phone, and her watch were found at Watson's Bay at a specific area called The Gap. The Gap is a oceanside cliff that is located on Watson's Bay's east side suicide, and unfortunately it is very well known for suicides. And it was because of these findings, even though there was no note left at the scene, that the police ruled that Mandy may have leapt from the gap of her own accord. Her struggles with her mental health were cited as a motivator behind her assumed reasoning for doing this. And as police crews made several attempts to try to locate Mandy's possible remains, unfortunately no sign of a body was ever recovered. And because of that, investigators can't conclusively close her case, but she is technically missing, presumed passed away. So after all of this happened, tributes started flowing in, especially after the creation of her tribute Facebook page, and the link for that will be provided in the description bar below. So many people loved Mandy. I can't stress that enough. This woman was extremely, very well loved, and so many people were inspired by her. So many people loved her music. Her Hellfire family, as well as her biological family, were so devastated when this happened, and as was her ex-partner Mel/DJ Feisty. Mel was even quoted by saying, "I have lost the other half of my soul, but I know I will always have Mandy in my heart, and especially in the music." And unfortunately that concludes both of these cases today. Thank you so much for watching this video on these cases of missing Australian LGBTQ+ persons. It is always very appreciated that you take the time out of your day to watch these videos, and please, if you have any information whatsoever about these two missing women, I urge you to please follow the links below in the description. It's just so important that we give the loved ones and the family of these two ladies the closure that they deserve after all these years. So it's never too late, and no amount of time has ever been too long. Also in the description bar below you will find all the available links pertaining to missing persons. As well, I've also linked Mandy's tribute Facebook page. I actually messaged the Facebook page too, and they've actually given me permission to post this video there. So hello if you're from Mandy's Facebook page. Thank you very much for clicking, it's very appreciated. So thank you very much. So just please remember that these women were someone's daughter, they were someone's best friend, and they were someone's sibling. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you later in my next video. Thank you.